저봉고의 심요. The royal palace of Goryeo is burning. The king is still inside. The man who lit the fire is the same man who, 20 years earlier, rode alone into an entire enemy army to save this kingdom. Korean history remembers him as a hero and, in the very same record, as a traitor. Both labels are true. That's the problem. How does one man end up filed as both? Let's go back to where he started, because he didn't start as either. Most people assume Koryo's greatest soldiers came from noble blood, trained from boyhood, born with a family name that opened doors. Cheok Jun-gyeong opened no doors. He had none to open. He was the son of a low-ranking provincial clerk, too poor to be educated. As a young man, he drifted with nobody in particular, because no respectable path was open to a man like him. The Goryeo court had no place for someone with his name. They were wrong. In 1104, Goryeo marched north to put down the Cheok tribes. It went badly. General Imgan's army broke and ran. In the chaos, one soldier with no rank and no command asked for a horse and a weapon. Cheok Jun-gyeong rode alone into the Cheok line, killed their commander, pulled 2 captured Goryeo soldiers out alive. That was the first time his name entered the official record. It would not be the last. 3 years later, Goryeo built a new kind of army to finish the job, the Tarimmuban. 170,000 men marching north to break the Jirchun for good. Cheok Jun-gyeong went with them. By now, men were starting to notice his name. At a fortress called Seoksong, when the army couldn't take the wall, he climbed it, alone, with nothing but a shield. Then came Gahanjeong, General Yun-gwan's own elite guard. 8,000 of his best men walked into a Jirchun ambush in a narrow valley. By the time it was over, there were perhaps a dozen of them left standing. Yun-gwan himself was trapped inside it. Cheok Jun-gyeong took 10 volunteers, 10 men against the force that had just destroyed 8,000. He broke the encirclement by force and personally walked his general back to safety. Afterward, Yun-gwan took his hand and said, "From now on, I'll treat you as my own son. You treat me as your father." For a man with no family standing of his own, that sentence may have meant more than any rank the court could give him. But here's what most people don't know. That bond was the beginning of his undoing, not the high point of his career. Yun-gwan died not long after the war, and with him went the only person in the Goryeo court who had ever simply chosen Cheok Jun-gyeong with no politics attached. What filled that gap was politics, all of it. A marriage tied his family to Lee Jagyum, the regent who, by the 1120s, had turned the Goryeo throne into something close to a hostage situation. His daughters had married into the royal family. The young king, In-jong, answered to him in nearly everything. Cheok Jun-gyeong, the low-born war hero, was now standing next to the most dangerous man in the kingdom. And in 1126, that position would cost him everything he'd built. Here is what happened in the second month of 1126. King In-jong's own loyalists made their move. A strike meant to remove the Lee Jagyum faction in one night. It failed. And in the failure, 2 men died who had nothing to do with the plot, Cheok Jun-gyeong's brother and his son. Imagine receiving that news as a soldier who has spent 20 years being the man who arrives in time to save everyone else. This time, no one arrived in time to save his own family. He didn't ask for an investigation. He set fire to the Donghwa gate. The fire did not stop at the gate. It moved through the palace grounds into the king's own residence. Inside, 18-year-old King In-jong raised a yellow parasol above his head, the signal that he was still alive, still inside. Please stop. The attack did not stop. Arrows landed close enough that some reached the king himself. Imagine holding up a flag of surrender that nobody on the other side is willing to see. By the time the fire was out, the royal residence Cheok Jun-gyeong's own king had grown up in no longer existed. This is the single act that decides how Korean history files him. Not the rescues, not the 20 years on the frontier. This one night. But the story does not end with a fire. This is the part most retellings leave out. Weeks later, a servant's overheard remark reached Cheok Jun-gyeong. Lee Ja-gyum's own people were already talking about getting rid of him next. At almost the same moment, a royal official named Che Sa-jun came to him, carrying the king's secret instruction. His message was simple. Lee Ja-gyum has no loyalty in him. He will turn on you the moment he no longer needs you. Serve the kingdom instead, and your name outlives both of you. The crack was already there. Che Sa-jun just had to press it. It worked. Cheok Jun-gyeong sent back a written reply. 3 words the Goryeo records exactly. I will serve faithfully. Cheok Jun-gyeong took 7 officers and 20 palace servants, walked back into the palace he had set on fire weeks earlier, and arrested Lee Ja-gyum with his own hands. The coup that had nearly ended the dynasty was over. Ended by the same man who started its worst night. The soldier who burned down the king's home had just saved the king's throne. In the same year. For a moment, it looked like the kingdom had forgiven him completely. In-jong tried to appoint him Munhajjong, Goryeo's highest civil office, second only to the king. Cheok Jun-gyeong turned it down. Too far above the rank he'd actually earned, he said. It didn't matter. Goryeo's official chroniclers had no category for a man who did both of those things. So they picked one. A court official named Jong Ji-sang stood up and delivered the verdict that would follow Cheok Jun-gyeong into the history books. Removing Lee Ja-gyum was a momentary merit, but invading and burning the palace is a crime for 10,000 generations. He was exiled to a small island off Korea's southern coast. Not executed. The king owed him too much for that. But erased from power all the same. Over the next few years, in small, grudging steps, the same king who exiled him kept quietly giving things back. Moved closer to home, allowed to live with his family again, his son's land restored, as if the throne couldn't decide what it owed him either. In 1144, near the end of his life, King In-jong recalled him to the capital with a formal court title. Cheok Jun-gyeong died of an illness within weeks, before he ever truly returned. Here's the detail that doesn't fit a tidy ending. 2 years after his death, In-jong, by then dying himself, restored Cheok Jun-gyeong's rank from his own sickbed. Popular memory says the king had come to believe his illness was his old general's wronged spirit. Still unsettled, still owed something. A king who never fully forgave him in life was, it seems, afraid of him in death. No portrait of Cheok Jun-gyeong survives. No statue stands anywhere in Korea with his name on it. The only official record we have filed him permanently under rebels, right next to men who tried to kill their king for power, not out of grief. And yet, he didn't disappear. With no portrait and no statue to work from, people kept telling the story anyway. Until, 800 years later, he picked up a nickname that has nothing to do with how the official record filed him. Today, people just call him the Sword Master, Goryeo's one-man army, still talked about, still argued over. Modern historians have started asking the question. Goryeo's own chroniclers refused to. What do you call a man who saves a kingdom, loses his family to the kingdom's politics, burns down his palace in rage, and then personally saves it anyway? Hero? Traitor? Goryeo's official answer was, pick one. History, 800 years later, still hasn't. This has been Korea Explained. The more you know Korea, the more you want to know.